No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live episode number 286. And breaking right now, Outspoken has won the battle for the first major sit-down with Tommy Robinson after his arrest trauma, prompting outrage and anger from Piers Morgan, who wants to trick the activist into a devastating free speech era that will see him back behind bars. That drama comes as the UK becomes the laughingstock of the world as Tommy reveals he has been arrested again because of tweets deemed offensive and incorrect.
I was arrested for other charges yesterday by the Mexican.
So you got these just yesterday?
They arrested me.
These are
I was arrested under caution, questioned about 3 tweets.
Now Jim Davidson has spoken out on the madness, claiming a conspiracy and suggesting he may end up being forced to move to an empty Muslim country.
There's a huge conspiracy about this, isn't there? Where's the rest of the film? What is going on? This is like who killed JFK at the moment. And Tommy is out there to be shot at. He's got a bullseye on his arse. This country is full of shit. Do you know what? I might go and live in a Muslim country. They must be fucking deserted.
So I'll outline the terrifying developments of 1984 Britain in my digest next. Then my superstar panel weigh in, two superb independent voices, Father Calvin Robinson from the USA and David Atherton from the UK. Also coming up on the show today, Nigel Farage owns a sly news reporter as they try to outplay him on Sadiq Khan's Lawless London. We'll show you the exchange and then what went down. Then Jeremy Clarkson doubles down, extending his ban on slippery Starmer ever entering foot into his pub. He also says he hates the Prime Minister. Is that appropriate? We'll debate. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Meghan Markle lashes out at bullying claims in her most deranged rant yet, which we're going to fact check, as she is said to have unveiled her new nose during her Hollywood birthday celebrations, where a YouTube sensation P. Diner will reveal all on that one. www.outspoken.live if you want to sign up. And of course, before the end of the show, we'll also reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. Who do you think is the worst Britain in the world today? Get voting in the live chat on YouTube. But here are your nominees. Yvette Cooper, nominated by Claire Whelan after admitting only 50 out of 1,300 migrants will be sent back to France. Ed Miliband, nominated by Thomas W3033, who says we sit on decades of our own energy in the North Sea, but our leaders would rather ban new licenses here and send £40 billion of our money to Norway. And Rachel from Accounts, nominated by At It's Only Me, the Chancellor, for turning the so-called £22 billion black hole into a £52 billion one. And we know what's coming. Tax rises, we know what's coming. We always knew what was coming. Get voting and leave your comments as well. I'll read out the best and the worst at the end of the show. But now, let's go. So Tommy Robinson has made his choice, and trust me, it will help him avoid jail. Yesterday, I urged the Under Fire activist, who has now been arrested for social media posts in the latest dystopian free speech outrage hitting 1984 Britain, to avoid sitting down with Piers Morgan, who is attempting to get him locked up again by tricking him into a contempt of court violation over his silenced documentary.
And so I watch the way he gets lauded in America and I think, well, this is ridiculous. I've challenged him to come on Uncensored again. We had a fiery debate on Good Morning Britain many years ago in which he came on and waved the Quran, which I thought was pathetic, and told him so to his face. So far, he's ducked me. And I think it's because he knows I see through a lot of it. And if he wants to come on and he wants to have a proper sit down with me, and we can get into exactly why he's just been in prison, because it's got nothing to do with what he says he's been a victim of, which is the establishment trying to silence him. No, you lied. You got caught lying. You were told if you lied again, you go to prison for contempt of court. You lied again. You made a film. You promoted it. You came over and promoted it. And you therefore were found guilty of contempt of court, my sunshine. So that's what actually happened.
Now, late last night, Tommy announced his decision. He will not be appearing on Piers Morgan Uncensored, but will instead sit down for a truly uncensored interview here on Outspoken this Friday before he leaves the country again. So he posted on X, looking forward to a sit down with Dan Wootton this week, which raised the ire of Piers, who responded with two bitter words, bottle job. Now, that couldn't be further from the truth. The British establishment and MSM, including Piers, are determined to see Tommy back behind bars before next month's Uniting the Kingdom rally. It's critical he doesn't fall into their trap, especially after the MSM lunacy this past week, after a simple act of self-defence was turned into an opportunity by The Sun to treat Tommy as the world's most wanted criminal on the run, even though he had arranged with the police to meet him at Luton Airport following the attack that wasn't.
I am in London and had a fight with the door. And I am at London Real.
But Tommy is taking no prisoners today, branding left-wing comedian Jonathan Pye a soy-infused mug after he branded him a thug on X. Watch.
I would love to see a little soy boy bitch like you last a day in my shoes. You wouldn't last a day. The first sign of confrontation. I have no security and I walk everywhere, every day. I don't go around attacking people. But I do defend myself. How many times do you think I've been in a situation of being confronted when I walk around on my own? I've been confronted in front of my children, in front of my family, in front of my wife. I only ever defend myself. What I done here, what would you do, Jonathan? Someone's coming up to you, getting in your face, threatening violence against you, following you, harassing you, getting in your way so you can't walk round him. What would you do? And then finally charges at you with his hands up, attacking you. What would you do, soy boy? Okay? You'd only be happy if it was me laying on the floor, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, it's not me laying on the floor, is it? It wasn't. So I ain't going to apologise for defending myself. You're a soy boy, little bitch.
The deranged lawfare against Tommy, though, and this is much more serious, will not stop. Trust me, because they will find anything, including posts on X, that their little snowflake minds either don't particularly believe or find offensive. So that's right, Sadiq Khan's overwhelmed Met Police force that regularly turns its back on the most horrifying violent crimes, including the out-of-control scourge of Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, is now turning its attention to Tommy's X account in an attempt to silence him before next month's rally. Look here from Inevitable West. Tommy Robinson posted the fact that a school in the UK had no students which spoke English as a first language. He's now under investigation by the British state for that post. Facts are now illegal in the UK. And what was most shocking is that the Mercian said that the reason the Met Police have given for these posts being investigated is because they convey information known to be false or are grossly offensive. That was soon backed up by Tommy's team, who confirmed when Tommy Robinson was detained last night, he was arrested by Met Police for these social media posts. And when you think about this, right, it's utterly disturbing. As he says, free speech is dead in the UK under Keir Starmer's regime. Check this out, Elon Musk. After his questioning, he broke down in tears, but not tears of sadness, but tears of laughter. Because sometimes you do actually have to realize the madness of this dystopian hellscape we are currently living in. Watch this.
I came here to talk about you getting bail, but you showed me this, and it's almost too much to believe.
I was arrested for other charges yesterday by the Met.
So you got these just yesterday?
They arrested me.
These are
I was arrested under caution, questioned about 3 tweets.
So we've got those tweets here. I'll start with this one here.
Start with this one. Yeah?
Okay.
Let me explain this one.
So this says crime. These are
crime. No, this is a crime. This is not non-crime. This is a crime. I was arrested.
You were arrested?
I was arrested for this. Now, what I've done is, this is sharing something from the Daily Mail newspaper. This is a Daily Mail article. So when they sat me down, they said, "Are you?" I think it's the Internet Harms Act 2023.
Yeah, that's a new law just the last week.
Yeah. Are you accredited? When they say credited, so media, journalists, they listed all these things. And the point, and so my solicitor butts in and says, "Hold on." So they said, "You've shared this article, yeah, on your X account."
And you're saying that's a Daily Mail article,
Daily Mail article.
But because you shared it and you don't have a, it's almost like
They're
that
protected.
meme. Where's your license, mate?
Yeah, they're protected.
Where's your
They're
Twitter
so
license?
They're exempt from this law.
Oh my God!
So the recognised media, as in the government recognised media, are exempt from this law, but they're now using the law.
So they're checking who's an official person before they retweet a Daily Mail story.
And then you're arrested.
Arrested?
And then you're arrested.
So this is completely different.
And do you know what they said? And they said the point, because this is Daily Mail article, and what they say is, a primary school in East London has been named as the first in the UK where none of the children's first language is English. Yeah, and then they show some pictures of pupils. The school sits in a quiet side street, a busy commercial road in Whitechapel, a district once synonymous with Jack the Ripper, the Cray twins, and home to the nation's true Cockneys. Now this. Now that word was added onto Daily Mail article. Now this. Now what he said is, are you saying that those Bengali girls wearing headscarves are not Cockneys? And then the copper read out the definition of Cockney.
Oh my God!
The definition of Cockney
It's too much.
The definition of Cockney is, I'm crying my eyes out at this point. The definition of Cockney is someone born in East London, yeah?
Oh
So he's
my
like,
God.
Are you saying that they're not Cockneys? I was like,
Oh my God! It's too much. That sounds like an
Cockney's
absurd
the oldies.
comedy.
I mean, it truly is too much. It is truly insane. If you were not laughing, you would be crying about the current state of our country. And by the way, can I just say the idea that anyone working for the Daily Mail is any more of a reporter than the new army of brilliant and brave independent citizen journalists really is for the birds. But this isn't a one-off. With the Daily Telegraph reporting, the next lot to be targeted will be critics of migrant hotels. So it does feel like time for an SOS to the rest of the world. And finally, America appears to be waking up to the fact that Slippery Starmer's free speech pledge to Trump at Turnberry and J.D. Vance in the Oval Office was nothing more than a sick lie. Fox News and Michael Schellenberger really raising the world's attention to the extent of this predicament.
In 1984 called, and he wants its Ministry of Truth back. The UK has created an elite police unit known as the National Internet Intelligence Investigations Team, dedicated to monitoring anti-migrant social media posts. Leaders claim its purpose is to detect early signs of potential unrest.
Unrest like this protest and counter-protest that erupted after a 38-year-old asylum-seeking migrant was charged with sexual assault for attempting to kiss a 14-year-old girl.
Despite the surveillance, UK's Prime Minister insists he still believes in free speech.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that. We protect it.
Well, with us now to react is Public News founder Michael Schellenberger. Michael, it is true that the United Kingdom and the West has a fairly robust tradition, long-standing when it comes to free speech, but I'm not so sure that's true anymore. I mean, there's story after story about people being thrown behind bars in the UK, even for tweets that they have deleted, with longer prison sentences than people who've committed actual physical violent crimes.
Yeah, that's right, Guy. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, there's a woman that's in prison for 31 months, which is 4 months longer than a child rapist is in prison. And what all she did was have a tweet up for 4 hours that she ended up taking down. This is a sweeping crackdown on free speech in Great Britain that we have not seen anything like in maybe hundreds of years. I mean, it's really astonishing. It's happening on multiple levels. Keep in mind, they were already arresting 30 people a day for wrong speech in Britain before this. Now they have a special police task force to constantly monitor social media, including X, formerly Twitter, and they can stop content based on age verification. So they can stop content saying, oh, this is harmful to mental health. And then X recently, just a few days ago, did block content on the basis of the British order to be able to identify if people were old enough to see it.
Now, am I humiliated that this is where the UK finds itself? Hell, yes, I am. But given how vulnerable any of us who raise our head above the parapet now are. I'm also very ready for the world to wake up. I mean, do you know Americans are now even being warned against travel to the UK on free speech grounds?
Americans now have to worry about traveling to Europe and saying the wrong thing or posting the wrong thing or have posted the wrong thing many years ago. Being in these so-called Western countries, they could face arrest by the Europeans or the Canadians.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's how 1984 works, is they want you to be afraid of what you're going to say. They want you to be afraid of saying something controversial and then not expressing it. That's one of the most damaging things to free speech here. America was founded on the idea we have to be free to speak our minds. Europe has taken us in an absolutely terrifying and totalitarian direction.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank God for the First Amendment here.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and how jealous we are that we don't have it. And I've reached the sad conclusion that only shaming us on an international scale like that could help save the UK from the tyranny of slippery Starmer's regime, where free speech is now ancient history and billionaires are fleeing the country on a daily basis as this invasion of epic proportions from the third world continues at pace. Meanwhile, on Woke ITV this lunchtime, a doctor in a hijab oversaw a man checking his vulva. God help our disunited kingdom, and God damn our corrupt mainstream media. Now, the Superstar Panel. Father Calvin Robinson, what's the sense from the US? Do you feel like what's happening here, the fact that people like Tommy Robinson now being arrested and having to defend the fact that they may have posted a tweet, which is something that people don't agree with, is that receiving traction in the United States? Are people aware of quite how bad things are here?
They're getting the message, but it's hard to keep up because every single week there's something new. It's ridiculous. I think from this side of the pond, looking over to the UK, it's like looking over to the Soviet Union. It's like looking over to communist China. When we look back to Britain, it's a great shame to see what was once a good free nation becoming just another Marxist entity. The Tommy Robinson incident is a great example. What? Some tweets. Like I didn't even personally agree with all three of the tweets, but I don't think any of them should be illegal. They're tweets, for goodness sake. Crime is rampant. Rape, knife crime, burglaries. You know, we see on the streets of London now, they have this tape, don't stand too close to the edge, you might get your bag snatched. Well, just arrest the people snatching bags, for goodness sake. When I lived in London, I got burgled. Do you think the police found the burglars, even though I had CCTV and there was DNA evidence? No, of course they didn't. They don't solve actual crimes anymore because they're too busy fixating on people saying the wrong thing, which is anything that goes against the approved narrative of Sir Keir Starmer and his communist government. We also know that the Labour Party were lobbying big tech to try and censor the approved narrative of the two-tier system. We can't have anyone speaking about the two-tiered system. Why? Because there is a two-tiered system, and they don't want the truth out there. They don't want us to have the freedom to say what we think.
By the way, I'm so glad that you've mentioned this shocking new development in London, because people didn't know if this was real. I didn't know if it was real or not, but Adam Wren has actually been down and got this picture proving that it is. So what you'll see there is that is now something painted on the main thoroughfare of central London's shopping district, Tottenham Court Road, just down from Oxford Street. And it says,
please mind
the grab, step back from the curb, phone snatching hotspot. Now,
they're mocking us, Dan. Mind the gap is kind of part of the British culture. Please mind the gap. Wherever you go in the world, they know please mind the gap, right? And so they're using that language to mock us, to mock our culture. It's victim blaming. It's saying, you people, stop getting your bag snatched. Mind the grab, for goodness sake. Do you know what happens in London? That should not be happening in London. It's atrocious that it is, and it's even worse that instead of stopping it, they're targeting the people who are getting their bags snatched in the first place. What have we become? They're actually laughing at us.
100%. Now, David Atherton, great to have you back on the show. I believe that you have also been targeted for posting the same tweet that Tommy Robinson has now been arrested for.
Indeed, yes. In January of 2024, I sent it out. It's the Palestinian one with the profane language and a certain critique of Islam. And I got an email from the Metropolitan Police in Kingston asking me to come in and have a word about it. And I said, no, am I obliged to come in? No, I'm not. But if you don't come in, we will arrest you. And then one day I had a knock at the door from two Metropolitan Police officers and they handed me a hard copy letter, demanding that I come in tomorrow morning and be interviewed. I went down there. I commented the interview, and about 3-4 months later, I got a phone call from the detective constable saying that there will be no further action. That's the one there. That's the very one.
But that takes so much time. This takes so much time. And meantime, we have violent crimes which are ignored on a daily basis in London. I mean, I find it astonishing. Ross Kempsell, who runs the Guido Fawkes website, posted about this Mind the Grab. Unbelievable. This is completely wrong-headed and represents capitulation of the urban environment to criminality. It should be removed and replaced with zero-tolerance policing instead. But it's funny, Dave, because it feels like the only zero-tolerance policing at the moment is towards social media.
I think the broader problem with that the Labour government has, and I think government full stop has, with social media, they've completely lost the narrative. We can fact check them 24/7, 365. Yes, there's some wild stuff on social media. I've been caught out sending the odd dodgy tweet out myself, but 99% of what I send out is in good faith and is accurate.
Yeah, but who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, journalists are not sent to prison. I mean, can we just look at our mainstream media over the past 10 years?
Yeah.
If journalists were going to be sent to prison for telling lies, then you should lock up Beth Rigby, lock up Robert Peston, lock up Laura Koonsberg. All of the mainstream media have told lies, for example, over Brexit, over the COVID pandemic. So that is actually not even something that the police should think that is part of their remit, because very often things that people post in one moment and derided as untrue in a few weeks or a few months or in a few years are very often proven to be true. It's none of their damn business. We have to have free journalism.
Well, absolutely, we do. As you rightly said, the citizen journalism that's going on at the moment really is a tour de force. And congratulations to everybody, whether they run a little X space or whether they do a bit of filming a demonstration. The coverage has been absolutely fantastic.
Totally. Well, it's waking up, isn't it? It's waking up the mainstream media. Father Calvin, do you understand the point that I'm making, by the way, about Tommy Robinson not going on Piers Morgan? Because I would have no problem if it was going to be a good faith discussion where Piers Morgan said everything's on the table and we're going to debate Islam, because I actually think Tommy would end up owning Piers Morgan, to be honest. But what he's done is set this very limited ground on which he wants to conduct the interview, all about Tommy's film Silenced. Now, we know, Father Calvin, that if Tommy sticks up for that film and effectively defends it, he will be in contempt of court and the authorities will have a chance to send him back to jail. And Piers is saying, I only want you on if you're going to talk in detail about that film, which Tommy has said, I cannot do. So what is the point?
Yeah, Piers Morgan is a bad faith actor at this point, to keep publicly saying, Tommy's not brave enough to come on my show, and then keep setting these criteria. You can only come on my show if you only talk about this specific thing. Because he wants a gotcha moment. And he knows that the last time Tommy was on GMB, Tommy made him look foolish because Piers was flapping, don't touch the Quran, don't touch the blessed Quran, for goodness sake, we'll all lose our heads. And Tommy's right, no, this is my book, I want to talk about it. And rightly so. And Piers looked like a fool, and he doesn't want to look like a fool again. So he's pinned down, what can I get Tommy on? I'll get him on the minutiae of this documentary that he made. He's not a professional documentary maker. He's just a citizen journalist trying to release the truth as best he can. And so Piers is like, I'm going to get him on that date or that time there. It's not good journalism. If Tommy is going to do something with Piers, they'd need a moderator at this point. It would need to be some independent channel.
Yes.
Because Piers is not an unbiased person. But the thing I also want to specify is that there's no official journalism. There's no accredited journalism.
No.
You can get a press card, yes, if you join a press union, but who wants to be a member of a union these days? We all know how biased they
100%.
are,
And there
how
shouldn't be.
Marxist and leftist they are.
There shouldn't be. Look, I've worked with these people. On the whole, they're scumbags, and they're certainly not people who are any more educated than anyone in the independent media space, because on the whole, they go with the narrative. They do what they're told because they know they've got to take their paycheck at the end of the day, and there are paymasters there, many of them billionaires, and at the end of the day, you're not prepared to, if you stay within that mainstream media ecosystem, you're not prepared to challenge that narrative. I am very happy to say, though, Tommy will be sitting down with me on Friday. Nothing will be off limits, so make sure you are back for that. Jim Davidson has weighed in on the case of Tommy Robinson, and it's really interesting because he views his arrest at St. Pancras Station after this very shaky and limited footage from one passerby was released as a conspiracy. Indeed, he has even compared it to the JFK assassination. And this is all because Tommy Robinson is demanding the Metropolitan Police do one thing and one thing only: release the tapes. And why have they not released the tapes? What we're seeing is exactly the same thing that happened after the Manchester airport attack. Now, we can say at least one of those brothers is a guilty, filthy police abuser because he has now been found by a court of law, by a jury of his peers, as guilty. Of course, the other brother is facing new charges. But what happened in that case is the police allowed a very small proportion of footage that was taken by a passerby to set the agenda rather than actually just releasing all of the footage. Why is there no transparency in the Metropolitan Police? Why can we not see the tapes? So Jim Davidson, who's of course a proud conservative, but not someone who has been associated with Tommy Robinson in the past, not someone who is friends with Tommy Robinson, has now spoken up on his brilliant Ustream platform. And I think you'll be really fascinated about what he has to say.
Robertson has been arrested by almost half the police force when he landed in Luton. He expected it, of course, and now he's in custody and is going to be charged allegedly with GBH. There's a huge conspiracy about this, isn't there? Where's the rest of the film? What is going on? This is like who killed JFK at the moment. And Tommy is out there to be shot at. He's got a bullseye on his arse. I don't know Tommy. I don't know exactly what he stands for, but my guess is he stands for what a lot of people are thinking. Our country is being taken over. It's being taken over by people who want to take it over. It's not just an opinion. You can see them walking along, you know, and now there is a chance on the 13th of September, for those of you who like to do that type of thing, I can't because I'm working, is to go and protest, and let's see what the police do. Let's see what the police do. I mean, this Action for Palestine have now announced that their thousands and thousands are going to break the law and go and protest. And then what they're saying is they won't arrest all of us because there's not enough room. You know, you can't go to court. You can only go to court if you're done for speeding or you get 12 points. Fucking ridiculous. This country is full of shit. Do you know what? I might go and live in a Muslim country. It must be fucking deserted. Okay, folks.
To my superstar panel, Dave Atherton, Father Calvin Robertson. Father Calvin, firstly, I have to say, you know, Jim Davidson's one of my favourite people. He's just brilliant because what I love about him is he does not give a shit. He has his own independent platform now. And I think his view on Tommy is actually probably where the vast majority of conservative thinkers in this country who aren't encumbered by the mainstream media, who aren't controlled by a network like Talk TV or GB News, is actually what they think. And there's quite a lot to pick up there. But can we start by him saying that he thinks there's a conspiracy going on? Because why would the Metropolitan Police just not release all of the footage? Father Calvin, Tommy's seen it. We know it exists. They ended up releasing the Manchester airport footage way too late. Why not just put it all out there?
Yeah, I also love Jim Davidson. He's hilarious. He's fantastic. I think he might be onto something. There is a conspiracy. I don't think it was a setup. I don't think that the person purposefully interacted with Tommy in order to cause a scene. I think that was just an incident that took place, and it was bound to happen. I'm sure it's happened in the past, it will happen in the future. But the conspiracy is, why are the Metropolitan Police not releasing the full footage? And if they're going to release clips, if they're going to release damaging clips, it's kind of scandalous to try and paint Tommy in a certain light rather than letting everyone see the full thing and make their minds up for themselves. And as Tommy's pointed out, if we all saw the full footage, we wouldn't have a problem with it. So yeah, there is a conspiracy at play, and the Metropolitan Police need to be honest and open and transparent.
Do you agree, Dave? Like, is there any reason that we can't see the footage? Because let's be honest, they always bend the rules if it suits their narrative, right? Like,
Exactly.
if the police want to drive a particular narrative, they will release the footage. If they don't, they arrange shit like this with the Sun newspaper to make it look as if we've got the most wanted man in Britain, even though he didn't do anything apart from defend himself.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's my understanding that Lord Hermer was the Attorney General, was the man who was behind his prosecution for contempt of court.
And we know he's a very bad guy because he's also the dude who has pushed the disgusting treatment of Lucy Connolly.
Exactly, yeah. And also Tommy Robinson, he was coming out of a podcast interview that was in the King's Cross and Pancras area. He had good reason to be there. So it's not a case he was ambling around looking for something to do. He was there. He was there with a purpose. And the question I said it to Tommy Robinson's face. I said, sometimes you are the architect of your own downfall, and you are sometimes a flawed character, but on balance, you are a force for good. That's what I said to his face. Reasonably balanced, but the point is, if Tommy Robinson was a Muslim, how many of those charges do you think he would have faced? I would suggest few, if any. And it's fairly obvious that he's basically the working class talisman for the people of this country who are against mass immigration. He's been monstered by the mainstream media, very, very unfairly. I had a DM with a journalist from GB News, and they described him as a thug. And I'd asked the question: Have you seen his address that he did to the Oxford Union? Don't swallow this propaganda that drips poison out week in, week out. Now, Tommy Robinson has 12 Osmond letters in his possession. An Osmond letter is the police write to you and tell you that your life is in imminent danger. He must walk around in a permanent state of paranoia, that justified paranoia. That there are people out to get him. There are out to people to hurt him. There are even people out there to kill him. What you're meant to do. If you are with wine and you've been on the sauce and you've had too much to drink, and you wander up to Tommy Robinson and you're physically provocative with somebody, what do you don't expect a bunch of flowers? Bear in mind, Robinson's only 5'6". All right, he works out. He's quite a strong lad. The guy he was up against was over 6 foot tall, and they reckon to be something like 17, 16 stone, something like that. What are you going to do in that situation? You give him a kiss on the cheek? No, he has every single right to defend himself. And shame on the British Transport Police for not releasing the footage, which would probably clear, which by all accounts would clear him of what he's done.
Father Calvin Robinson, isn't it fascinating, though, hearing Dave talk about that GB News journalist describe Tommy Robinson as a thug? I mean, this is now a litmus test issue for me, and we've had a few of them over the past few years. Like, did you believe that the deep state was trying to stop Brexit from happening? Do you believe that the government was working against us during the COVID pandemic? There are certain litmus test issues, and I think one of those litmus test issues for me now is the issue of Tommy Robinson. If you are so blinded and so unable to do any of your own research, and you just go with the narrative, so like the Sun does, far-right thug, like GB News does, far-right thug, like Camilla Tominey and Patrick Christie's does, racist, then I'm sorry, I can't trust you on other issues. And that's not to say, by the way, that I don't think people can have a debate about Tommy Robinson. Like, go right ahead. Absolutely, you can say Tommy Robinson is a bad dude. He's not good for this reason. He shouldn't be running for parliament. But if you just immediately say, far-right thug, and as a result, you think he should be banned from the public square, you think he should be cancelled from your media organizations, then I cannot trust you on other issues, because it just proves that you will go with the mainstream narrative.
Right. So it's okay if it's your nan who only watches the BBC, only gets her information from mainstream media. If she doesn't like people like Tommy, that's okay.
Totally.
But if
I'm talking
if you're
about
working
journalists.
Right, if you're a professional journalist on a TV station like GB News that's supposed to be the alternative perspective, and you're still peddling that old BBC line, it says that you're an unthinking person, because the government and the mainstream media lied to us about Brexit, they lied to us about lockdowns, they lied to us about the COVID jabs, they lied to us about the Ukraine, they're lying to us about Israel and Gaza, they continue to lie to us about all big things. And so if we're sitting there reporting on these lies, and then on this issue we're like, oh, but they're right on this, what does that say about us as people? And so all these unthinking so-called journalists, it shows that either they are not critical thinkers or they're ambitious, right? And they're towing the party line in order to keep their share or get promoted or whatever. Therefore, they are people that cannot be trusted either way. And, I don't agree with Tommy on everything. I think Tommy is fantastic at what he does. He is leading the infantrymen in our country. He is the soldier right at the forefront of this culture war. I disagree with him strongly on Israel, and we've had these conversations in person, and it always goes very, very well. You should be able to disagree with people and still see them as a human being and like them for different things. This binary of, no, that's a bad guy, that's a good guy, it doesn't work like
exactly.
that.
And saying that they should be deplatformed because they are a thug. Right. Like, what does that mean? I mean, there are lots of thugs in the public square.
Well, people are allowed a past as well. Like,
yes,
I came up in Mansfield, right? It's a football town. People went out, they had a pint, they went to the football match, they got into a fight. That's what they did. That's the kind of place that Tommy grew up, right? So of course he's had a checkered history, but he's a grown man now. He's owned up to a lot of his mistakes. He did so on an interview that I had with him. He, put his hands up, says, I could have done that better. And we should be able to move past that, and we should be able to forgive people and allow people to
absolutely
grow.
And of course, and no one is perfect in the public square, are they? And we've all gone through that ourselves, got into scrapes. Maybe there are certain things that we regret. I mean, for example, this week with Tommy, because we're recording the interview on Friday, I said, do not even think about using public transport to get there, okay? Because I'm not having that on my conscience if something happens on the way. I think he was absolutely ludicrous to be strolling around St. Pancras on his own, and he's agreed that he will be transported to the interview, and absolutely there are things that we're allowed to disagree on all the time. I do think what's really interesting though, and I always use this term, maybe we're overusing it now, but the Overton window is shifting. I want to read you something from the Establishment Spectator, okay? This was published in the Spectator yesterday. And they write, poll after poll shows that border control remains a top priority for the British public. This afternoon, a YouGov survey found that significantly more people are worried about immigration, 56%, than healthcare, 34%. Another poll by the same outfit found that just under half of Brits support admitting no more new migrants and requiring large numbers of migrants who came to the UK in recent years to leave. Mass deportation is an idea that has been championed by ex-Reform MP Rupert Lowe, with his stance on the issue driving a wedge between himself and his former colleagues. YouGov has called its findings extraordinary, and they illustrate what Tim Shipman, that's the Spectator's political editor, said on their podcast this week, that the Overton window has in recent years moved far, far, far to the right. Now, Dave, I would say, look, I don't think it is extraordinary, but I can understand why people in the Westminster bubble find it extraordinary, because they have been totally unaware of the change that is going on. Because, by the way, if you watch any of the mainstream media, and I reluctantly tune in every night, and I do it so you don't have to the flagship BBC and woke ITV bulletins, you'd have no idea that there was discontent up and down this country. You'd have no idea how close this country is to the brink. You'd think the only story that the English cared about was Gaza.
Well, precisely, and that's particularly biased BBC coverage as well. That's absolutely terrible. Now, who would have thought, going back 5-10 years, who would have thought we could, with a straight face, even go onto mainstream media and talk about Pakistani rape gangs? Who would have thought 5-10 years ago we could talk about the remigration? it's basically a polite word for mass deportation. And I really do think if this country is to survive as a culture and as an historical and geographical entity, we really will have to get tough on immigration. Zero legal migration via work permits. The 1 to 2 illegals have to go. And what we should do is, I don't know whether you know, but a migrant has to earn £38,700 a year to be a net contributor to this country. So if you earn more than £38,700 a year, you pay more in taxes than you receive from national health and infrastructure, schools and public services. And if you earn less, you are somebody who consumes other people's taxes. Only 1 in 20
and by the way,
migrants.
that's not what you earn in the black economy, dealing drugs, by the way, or trafficking young women. That doesn't count. So I would imagine very, very few are earning over £37,000. Father Calvin, what do you make of Tim Shipman saying that, you know, the Overton window is moving far to the right?
To the right. He just makes me laugh, bless them. These people have no idea anymore. They're so disconnected, aren't they? The Spectator is obviously owned by the same people that own GB News. The Times is far left these days. The Guardian is obviously extreme far left, but even the Daily Mail isn't right wing anymore. The mainstream media has lost its connection with the British people. It's a shame because it's nice to have a broad spectrum of media that we can take different things from, but they have no idea. They're not going to see it coming, and it is coming. You know, just today, Pakistani asylum seeker appears in court accused of raping 8-year-old girl and subjecting her to multiple sex attacks. Time after time this happens. Of course, the people are going to say, okay, no more Pakistani Muslims in our country. Simple as. Like, we need to draw a line and enforce our border. If this small demographic of people are massively disproportionately responsible for child sexual abuse, then we need to no longer have this small demographic of people in our land. We need to protect our daughters. We need to protect our sisters. This is not far right. This is just common sense. And these lefty liberals who think the Conservative, bless their hearts, have no idea. And when the Civil War comes, I hope they're on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening every damn day. And I just think we should never be desensitized to what Father Calvin has just reminded us. You know, what is happening to our girls up and down the country every damn day. Do not allow yourself to be desensitized just because it is happening every damn day. That's why we're angry. That's why the country is on the brink. And my God, that's why something has to change. Developing today, a hilarious row between Sly News and one of its woke breed of political reporters who has no idea about real life in the United Kingdom, and Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, who owned them at a press conference in regards to rising crime in lawless London. So I'm going to take you through this fascinating story, but first watch the tone-deaf exchange between Sly News Breakfast political correspondent Myri Aurora and Mr. Farage.
This Project Fear, are you trying to make people afraid and trying to steer them into fear, and therefore that is the way you will get them to vote for you?
No, they are afraid. They are afraid. I dare you to walk through the West End of London after 9 o'clock of an evening wearing jewellery. You wouldn't do it. You know that I'm right. You wouldn't do it. And that's just in London, let alone what's happening in so many other parts of the country. And the genuine fears that mothers have, particularly for teenage kids, we have to recognise something. There are some people who come from certain cultures that pose a danger to our society. It's as simple as that.
Now, you saw what Myri Aurora was trying to do here. It's something lots of people on the left are trying to do. They want to make us feel as if we are somehow being racist or politically incorrect by revealing our lived experience, as the woke left like to say, our lived experience, that we are no longer safe on our own streets, that our daughters are no longer safe on our own streets. I speak from personal experience, right? Like, I've been mugged twice in lawless London. So this is not some type of far-right invention. But Myri Aurora tried to put that message across by writing this piece for the Sly News website, headlined, "Nigel Farage dared me to walk in London after 9 p.m. But as the Guido Fawkes blog reported, she's having to really eat some humble pie, with Sky not coming out looking rosy. So after Aurora accused Farage of Project Fair over rising crime, he responded at the conference and she posted this analysis piece. But it was a major self-own because Myri Aurora admitted, "I am not afraid to walk in the West End of London after 9 p.m. wearing jewellery. I have done it many times before and will continue to do so. But perhaps that is because I do not own a Rolex. Snatch theft, however, does worry me. Hence why I now have a phone case with a strap attached to it that I can put around my body." And she goes on, "And I worry about knife crime in my area and what the impact could be if I were to have children. On the weekend, someone was stabbed to death a stone's throw away from my house. However, if we look at the statistics, it is invariably a more nuanced picture than Farage or social media might have us believe." Now, Farage wasn't taking that lying down. Responding on X, the same journalist who accused me of stoking fear over crime also admits to wearing a phone strap because they are afraid of snatch theft. Go figure. Aurora responded on X, "I never accused you of anything. I merely asked you a question about your strategy. A question is not an accusation. I also asked you a question about your plans for mental health support in prisons, and that was not an accusation either. And yes, as I said in my piece, I wear a phone strap because of snatch theft, and I worry about knife crime as someone was stabbed to death on the weekend up the road from where I live." How stupid are these people, Father Calvin Robinson? Like, she's accusing Farage at this press conference of creating some type of invisible fear about a crime wave that doesn't exist. When she writes her analysis piece, which she thinks is some type of own of Farage, she admits that actually she's goddamn terrified too. So this is completely intellectually dishonest journalism coming from Sly News.
That's it, 100%. These people are dishonest. When she says, "Oh, I didn't accuse you, I just asked a question." Yes, she in the question, she implied that he is trying to make people fearful in order to get their vote, when quite clearly people are already fearful, including herself, for goodness sake. They're stupid as well as dishonest. Just own up and say, "Yeah, London is a mess and we need someone to sort it out." How do you propose to sort it out? Rather, no, you're going to make people afraid. People are already afraid. People are already getting their jewelry in their bags and their phones snatched left, right, and centre. Someone needs to address it. I think, I'm obviously not Nigel Farage's biggest fan, but I think he was absolutely in the right in that. And that Sly News journalist was dishonest, stupid, and wrong.
And Dave Atherton, we're seeing this from lots of people on the left who are trying to say, "Oh, it's the right. The right are trying to stoke this fear, and actually, the UK is great. And just look at the statistics, like Fraser Nelson the other day. Oh, just look at the statistics." Well, why then, Fraser Nelson, is there this mind the grab line now painted on Oxford Street, which, as Ross Kempsell of Guido Fawkes says, this is completely wrong-headed and represents capitulation of the urban environment to criminality? And if the Sly News journalist wasn't scared, then why is she writing about the fact that she had someone stabbed just up the road from where she lived the other day? I mean,
indeed.
This is not a creation, Dave. We are scared, and we are scared for very good reason, because there is an invasion of our country, and it means our streets are no longer safe.
Absolutely. Well, I lived in East London for 30 years, Leytonstone and Hackney, and I've survived and fought off three attempted muggings. Two were at knife point, and December 2003, I was set upon by 5 South Asians, probably Bangladeshis, for simply for being white. It is the sheer hypocrisy, the complete denial of the fact that Britain now resembles a third world cesspit, and everyone now it has the reason something. I think knife crime is now up 63% under Steve Cohen in the last year. The police and the courts do not do a good job in sentencing these people and making sure these people are brought to trial. I would suggest to you some of Mari's animus towards Nigel Farage was personal, his policies and his Reform Party. It was basically political bias in the way she was trying to score points against him. I think she, typical Sly News, typical sort of graduate of some red brick or Russell Group University who's been brainwashed by her lecturers and her professors. Absolutely clueless. And when people point out honest facts, empirical evidence, empirical research that certain demographics are involved in crime in this country, I'm sorry, it's all too much for them. No, I live in a relatively wealthy area of London, and but even I'm now seeing hijabs and burqas and things like that, even in the streets that I live on. And I remarked this lady who also lived in the same area as me, and she was shocked that I found it a worry, and we don't want these people living here. She looked at me aghast. She's obviously rich enough to not have to worry about it. When you spend most of your former life living in East London, and let me quickly say, the vast majority of people who do live in East London, of all races, are genuinely nice people. But you always decent and nice. But there's always this sort of significant minority that ruin the whole neighbourhood for everybody. And as I say, when on that Christmas Eve I was set upon, I was absolutely terrified. I couldn't fight back. I was lucky that my mate had come back from the shop with a packet of cigarettes, and also there was a passerby who intervened as well. But crikey, I remember being punched 3 times to the ground and getting a good shoeing at the same time. All I can say is lucky I played football and rugby for 40 years, both as a child and as an adult. That probably saved me because I'm used to getting a good shoeing sometimes from playing sport. And there's nothing that Khan or the government want to do about it. Now, if you carry a knife, it should be an automatic, no arguing, 3-year sentence. And if you use it with intent, it should be a 10-year sentence. Now, we've got to build more prisons, so be it. I'm sorry, I've had enough. This has to change, or we're all going to pay the price for it.
Well, of course, it's the Rudy Giuliani strategy, isn't it? The broken window strategy. We have to have a zero tolerance approach, but we're not. Yeah. Our major cities, and by the way, this is not just London. The same thing applies to Liverpool. The same thing applies to Birmingham. The same thing applies to Manchester. Indeed, the same thing even applies to Glasgow, is a sort of acceptance of anti-social behaviour. And as a result, we no longer feel safe. This is not something that is imagined. It is not something that is made up. And the thing that I find so disgusting, Father Calvin, from the people like Aurora at Sly News, like Kay Burley, like Susanna Reid, is, do you not feel that you're not worried about your own children? I mean, how can you look at what's happening and try and pretend that everything is okay?
I know, it's sad. I used to work at an inner city school in the heart of London, not far from Marylebone High Street. Lovely place. Again, another wealthy part of London that you wouldn't expect too much crime to be happening. We had to warn the young children not to walk down the high street on their own because the mopeds were so common, driving up and down the street, snatching their cell phones off them, their mobile phones off them. It got to a point where we had to tell the kids they couldn't do it themselves. And so we're recognising the problems, but we're not actually doing any solution. I'd love a mayor of London that would just get the Metropolitan Police, get the commissioners, get them all together and say, look, I don't want a single arrest in the city for a tweet or a Facebook post. I want to see every single moped. We know the people. We know where they're driving. Every single moped driver that's driving around London snatching phones, all of them arrested, give them harsh sentences. I want to see these Pakistani Muslims that are raping young girls. I want to see them in jail forever. I want harsh criminality to be... I want to see justice. And I don't want to see any more censoring of speech. I want to see crime being solved. That's what I want.
But we know we don't have justice because we know that there are huge swaths of the police that are put on the most ridiculous types of crime solving. which actually are things that could be ignored. The things that should never be ignored are violent crime, are sexual assault, are burglaries, are drug deals, but they're all the things that are pushed to the side. By the way, Adam Cherry of Guido Fawkes has made a good point about this mind the grab thing, which is now up and down the main streets of London, because he says ignoring the total surrender to the criminals, this also fails on its own terms because the thieves don't have the same honour code where they respect the pavements. They ride all over them and swipe 10 phones in about 2 minutes. So standing back from the curb does nothing. And it's actually completely true, Dave, because the 2 times when I have been mugged in Sadiq Khan's lawless London, it was nothing violent, by the way, but it's a total invasion because you're just walking down the street, holding your phone. I was in the middle of the pavement, and what these gangs of hood rats do is they come out on either side of you, and it's all about being very, very quick, very, very swift, and you have no chance to fight back or even know what's going on. And I find it so shocking actually now that I feel a great sense of relief when I'm in another country, because I'm like, oh my goodness, I can get my phone out. I can look at my map. I can check my text messages. And that's even in parts of America, which would in theory be considered dangerous.
Absolutely, yeah. I went to Poland 3 years ago, and went to Warsaw and Krakow when I saw the Auschwitz concentration camp. And the feeling of getting off the bus, getting off public transport, not having to look over your shoulder, not having to look around, not having to read people's body language. You could leave your phone on the table, to go to the toilet or pay the bill or whatever you have to do. The feeling of that sense of peace, that sense of contentment, you don't have in London, you don't have in Britain anymore. This is the world we should be living in, but unfortunately we're living in a third world, well, let's say the word shithole, and I hate every single minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating. It's devastating, but it's true. And if we keep denying the reality, then actually I think we're only doing a disservice to ourselves. Now, is it okay to hate the Prime Minister? A Prime Minister who is destroying our lives on a daily basis. I ask because this has become a major debate, especially in polite society, after Jeremy Clarkson went on Times Radio and confirmed that Slippery Starmer would remain banned from his pub and then used the H word. Watch this.
Talk a lot there, Jeremy, about the fact that the government doesn't really seem to get it in your view. I just wonder, is Keir Starmer still barred from your pub?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, I hate very few people in life, but I do hate that man. He's awful. No, he's definitely banned. He's just so flippant about farmers. Whenever you ask him, it's just like, well, who cares about them? And that's one of the things I really dislike. And then I watched him with Trump, trying to argue, well, we haven't really taxed them. Well, you have.
Now, I found that whole exchange fascinating because what was more interesting to me in a way than what Jeremy Clarkson was saying was watching the response on the face of the Times radio presenter, not Peter Cardwell, who asked the question, but they went to a woman in glasses. I have no idea who she is, but I know she's a presenter on Times Radio, which means she signs up to the elite class view of the world. And she was okay with Clarkson saying that Starmer was banned from his pub. But the moment he said, I really hate that man, her entire body tensed up and she raised her eyebrows and she couldn't handle having that type of honest conversation about a guy who I believe deserves to be hated. So I want to be very, very clear on my own position on this. I hate Keir Starmer. I hate Keir Starmer for what he is doing to our country. I hate Keir Starmer for the fact that I no longer feel like I have free speech in a country that created the very concept. And I hate Keir Starmer because of the fact that he lies. And I think actually that's one of the things that is most damaging about his reign. If you're going to do this stuff, go and own it. Own the fact that you're a communist. Own the fact that you don't believe that people have a right to free speech. Own the fact that you don't believe in independent journalism. But this is a man who travels around the world and lies. We shouldn't be surprised, by the way, given he lies about his own marriage. He lies about the shape of his own family. And again, that's something that I have spent the past year desperately talking about because I think it matters. I think the character of this man, or shall I say, the lack of character when it comes to this man matters. So yes, I'm going to be honest. I do hate Keir Starmer. Some people might think that's not good for the public discourse. But I think actually what he is doing is destroying public discourse altogether. So I don't feel like I should have to hold back in terms of my true feelings about him. But I want to debate this now with my superstar panel, Dave Atherton and Father Calvin Robinson. Father Calvin, is it okay to hate a Prime Minister like Keir Starmer and actually admit it in the way that Jeremy Clarkson did during that Times Radio interview?
Personally, I also noticed the same thing that you noticed, that the eyebrows and the hunching over, the reaction straight away, massive tells. I would say it's okay to hate. People would instantly think, what do you mean? Christians say you can't hate? No, it is okay to hate, but I would say it's not okay to hate people. And I think you're more on the same line as me with this, Dan, because you were saying, I hate what he's done to our country. I hate that he lies. We hate the things that he does. But if you'll indulge me, I'll read a very, very short part of the scriptures from the Holy Bible that says, there are 6 things which the Lord hates, 7 which are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. And it goes on. But the Lord hates lies. I hate lies. You hate lies. One of the reasons so many people hate Sir Keir Starmer is because he lies so often. And you're absolutely right. We should hate the action. We should hate the act rather than the person, and hope that he repents. Therefore, hope that he stops doing it and starts being honest and transparent with us.
Yeah, and I was really interested in your point of view on that, Father Calvin, coming from a religious perspective. Dave, what about you as a man on the street? You hate him?
Right. Well, I'm a little bit more moderate, but I'll end up being extreme in the end. I don't hate Keir Starmer. I loathe him with every single fibre of my body. I hate the things that he's done to this country, and I also would like to accuse Keir Starmer of having psychopathic tendencies. He knows full. He's the man who can stand up, not answer the question, and also tell blatant and utter lies. His manifesto was a tissue of lies, and it looks like in the autumn, Rachel from accounts will be putting up our taxes to mend the chronic black hole in the budget. This man is probably the worst prime minister that we've ever had, and how he still is polling 20%. His Labour Party is still polling 20%, 23% in the polls, is completely beyond me. We must have a significant number of morons in this country. So I suppose as well, Calvin as well. Yeah, indeed. I suppose there should be Christian forgiveness to a certain extent, but it's going to take me a long while for me to forgive him. And I think I've got a funny feeling on certain issues, maybe immigration and also the public finances. I think 2028 is going to be too far in the future. I think this country will be in serious trouble, and you can literally put it down to him. And then my loathing may turn to hate. And very quickly, when you look at the behaviour of the migrants in this country, particularly when it comes to sexual assaults, I hate that as well. And he is partly responsible for that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure either Dave or I have the wrong numbers, but I saw the Prime Minister polling at -44, which is outstanding, which would mean he's on the way out and he needs to look at a replacement pretty soon. But I may be wrong.
Sorry, Cal, but that's right. I'm just saying that 20% of the electorate would vote Labour. Vote for the Labour Party today. Sorry,
but without going on a tangent, Dan, another thing that I know you hate. This is the first time I've been in America for a year now. This is the first time I've seen this. I blooming hate this. the lids are attached to the bottles.
That better not be coming to America. The EU bottle tops that don't. Oh yeah, I really do hate that. I have huge hatred for that. Look, I guess where I'm coming from, though, interestingly, is that I have a lot less hate for people who I might disagree with more, but who are honest about where they come from and what they really feel. So I'll use two politicians, one of whom I think is going to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, unelected, of course, Angela Rayner. And I'd also put Jeremy Corbyn in that category too, Dave, because I completely disagree with all of their policies. I think they're extremists. I think they will destroy the country. But the difference between those conviction politicians and Slippery Starmer, who is a puppet, who is a globalist puppet who is controlled, is that at least they admit what they really feel and really think. And at least I can have a grudging respect for that. When Keir Starmer literally can sit in front of the world's media and Donald Trump and say, no, there's no censorship of social media in this country. Don't worry, nothing's happening to your Truth Social. When my damn digest has been censored on X the day prior because I dared to speak about the migrant protests at hotels up and down the country, then I do have hatred towards that. So do you see what I'm saying? I don't hate Angela Rayner. I don't hate Jeremy Corbyn in the same way that I hate Starmer, because I think at least they are honest brokers about what they truly believe. I don't think Starmer has an honest bone in his body.
Yeah, sure. Baroness Thatcher was a conviction politician, wasn't she? So God bless her, and if only she was in charge of this country today. Call me remarkably generous, Dan, but actually I've got a lot of grudging respect for Angela Rayner. The sort of bitchy comment is that she left school with more children than she did qualifications, and she's literally pulled herself up by her bootstraps to get to become deputy prime minister. So she really does genuinely have my respect for doing that. I don't think her credo and her political views are any use to this country. She just seems to be all mouth and rhetoric. When she sort of was banging on apparently a couple of sheets of the window about scum Tories and things like that. And you see her in
but at least they're both honest, because look, what I would put to you, Dave, is that the regime that Slippery Starmer and Rachel from Accounts have introduced is actually as hard left, as socialist, as communist, as extreme, as financially debilitating as anything that Corbyn or Rayner put forward. But it's just that he lied. He just lied to us all. Yeah. I mean, I always knew, by the way, I remember going on my GB News show virtually every night and saying, this idea that Starmer is a moderate, you're crazy. He's an extremist, but he's a controlled extremist, so he's going to not be honest with you about what he really thinks. But that's what I feel so angry about, the fact that he was elected on completely false pretenses. If he had been honest about what he was going to do to this country, I think he would have won, but he wouldn't have won in the landslide that gives him the power that he currently has.
I've always felt that if Jeremy Corbyn had won the 2019 election, the Starmer government of this time is a cut and paste of what it would have been if Jeremy Corbyn had become Prime Minister in 2019. I think it was Peter Hitchens who dissected his background. Keir Starmer is an unapologetic Trotskyist or Marxist. Now, he really is an extreme left person. And he's cracked down on free speech in this country. It really resembles the Stasi, really resembles the Gestapo, and the way both those organisations literally kick the so-and-so out of free speech and free assembly and your ability to express your opinion. I really don't know why Starmer can't sit down, take a deep intake of breath, and work out why he's so unpopular and how he could improve his ratings and his party's chances at the next election.
I honestly think it's too late.
I think he's that bigoted. Dan, I think he's that bigoted.
It works, though. The lying works. So when I speak to certain people who aren't far left, who aren't commies, and they go, "Oh, isn't it marvelous that the Prime Minister managed to settle those far right riots in Southport? Isn't it wonderful? He's doing a great job." And you're like, no, it's not wonderful. That first of all, they weren't for far right riots. They were protests because young girls were being killed. Secondly, he's not handling it well at all. He's lying. He's censoring. He's a massive comic. But because he doesn't tell the truth, He gets people that aren't naturally on his side. It works in his favor. And he's not the first to do this. He learned this from Tony Blair and David Cameron. They're all of the same ilk.
Yeah,
Dave pointed out
Blair,
that we used to have
Blair
people
was
like
a clever
Thatcher.
enough politician, though, to be re-elected twice, and
That's true.
Starmer will never be elected again. He will never, ever be elected again. Fascinating debate. Thank you for having it, my superstar panel, Father Calvin Robinson and Dave Atherton. We'll reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass in just one moment. But first, let me get to your comments. Thank you, Claudia Vivarelli, for the super chat. This is a really interesting one. She says, as you know, here in Italy, we have the mafia. Even so, I think I prefer Italy than living under Starmer's regime in the UK. It's saner. Wow. Doesn't that say something? Brilliant super chat. Thank you so much, Claudia. David J. Briscoe on the Tommy Robinson issue. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, David. Writes, Mike Ainsbury, the Labour MP, did not get this amount of attention for punching a non-aggressive guy who had his hands in his pockets. Very, very good point, because obviously comparing it to Tommy Robinson. Gary Ford on this says, I responded to Piers Morgan. I asked him, what is the point in a second interview with Tommy? We know Piers hates Tommy, indeed. Tony Williams says, Piers ran off Crane of Good Morning Britain after a row with the weatherman. And JJ, on a similar note, says, old Piers whining about a bottle job. He would know all about those scenes as he flounced off an ITV studio because he couldn't handle a cue card reader who gave weather updates. And thank you, by the way, to Mary Terry, Kristen Lewis, and Megan Taylor, who have all become Outspoken Plus members over the course of the show. I am so grateful for that. Okay, time to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. A reminder of your Union jackass nominees. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, put forward by Claire Whelan after admitting only 50 out of 1,300 migrants would be sent back to France. Ed Miliband, the Environment Secretary, nominated by Thomas W3033, who says we sit on decades of our own energy in the North Sea, but our leaders would rather ban new licences here and send £40 billion of our money to Norway. And Rachel Reeves, nominated by It's Only Me, the Chancellor, for turning the so-called £22 billion black hole into a £52 billion one. Okay, so 3 Labour bigwigs. Who have you gone for? In third place, Ed Miliband with 18% of the vote. The runner-up with 39% of the vote, Rachel Reeves. But today's Union jackass with 44% of your vote, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. And today's Greatest Britain, nominated by Andrew W. Hall, 90, is Susan Hall, the leader of the Tory party in London, also a member of Restore Britain, for calling out Sadiq Khan time and again and holding him to account for the public. Indeed, I was watching some of the exchanges in London with Sadiq Khan's deputy on X earlier. I might be talking about that on the show tomorrow because, my God, it was really something. Lots of big royal news today. So coming up in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Meghan Markle has lashed out at bullying claims. This is her most deranged rant yet. Plus, have you seen what's going on with Prince Harry and his own Centre Barley charity, which he seems to now want to blow up? As I say, big royal stories, lots of insight for you with royal YouTube sensation P. Dynast. We're going to move over to Substack to do that now, www.outspoken.live. But thank you for your company today. We will be back with you tomorrow, UK time at 5 p.m, midday if you're in the Eastern time zone. In the US, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. Then you'll be alerted to our new episodes if you turn on your notification bells. Do remember too, and I'd love you to subscribe, we are also now an audio podcast too. So if you ever do miss the video version, you can find us at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you happen to listen to your podcast. Please do rate and review as well. If you give that 5-star rating, it really helps the discoverability of the show. And you know, so much of being independent is about spreading the word, because lots of people still come up to me and say, Dan, what are you doing since GB News? And it's like, oh my God, that's been 2 years. So please do spread the word, rate and review if you can, subscribe, and I would be ever grateful. And of course, most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.